As we grow older, society often tells us that friendships are the key to happiness, that having a large circle of friends is the only way to avoid loneliness. But what if that's not true? What if true joy in old age comes from something deeper, something that has nothing to do with the number of people around you? I want to share my journey with you, a journey of discovering the beauty of living joyfully alone. I used to believe that friendship meant being constantly surrounded by people, that my value was tied to how many connections I had. But over time, I realized that the strongest connection I could ever have was with myself. In this video, we'll explore what it really means to embrace solitude, why quality over quantity matters in relationships, and how self-reliance can lead to a more peaceful and fulfilling life. Whether you're someone who prefers their own company, or just wondering if friendships change as we age, this conversation is for you. Let's dive into the truth about friendship in old age and why being alone doesn't mean being lonely. When I was younger, I felt an unspoken pressure to always be surrounded by people. Friendship was often measured by the number of people you knew, the parties you attended, and how socially active you were. If you weren't constantly engaging, you were seen as lonely, even unsuccessful in some way. But as I grew older, something changed. I realized that true happiness isn't about how many friends you have, it's about how deeply connected you feel to yourself and the world around you. I started to understand that being alone wasn't a sign of isolation, but an opportunity for peace, self-reflection, and personal growth. At first, it was a difficult adjustment. I had spent so many years trying to maintain friendships that didn't truly fulfill me. The endless social gatherings, the pressure to stay in touch with everyone, it was exhausting. But with time, I began to see the beauty in slowing down, in letting go of relationships that no longer added meaning to my life, and in embracing the simplicity of my own company. Society often equates being alone with being lonely, but that couldn't be further from the truth. I discovered that solitude is not an emptiness, it's a space where you can truly hear yourself. It's where you stop chasing external validation and start finding fulfillment within. This realization changed everything. Instead of seeking out companionship just for the sake of having company, I started prioritizing quality over quantity. I focused on the relationships that truly mattered, the ones that brought me joy, understanding, and peace, rather than those built on obligation or convenience. And that's when I learned an important truth. Friendship in old age is not about how many people are around you, it's about how meaningful the connections you have truly are. As I shifted my perspective, I began to see solitude not as loneliness, but as freedom. Instead of filling my days with forced social interactions, I started embracing the quiet, the stillness, and the simple joys of life. There's something incredibly peaceful about waking up in the morning and knowing you don't have to answer to anyone. I found joy in a quiet cup of coffee, in long walks with no destination, in watching the sunset without the need for conversation. These moments, though small, carried a richness that no crowded party or fleeting social interaction ever could. In a world that constantly tells us to stay busy, to be social, to engage at all times, choosing solitude feels almost rebellious. But here's the truth: when you learn to enjoy your own company, you become truly free. You no longer feel the need to chase friendships for validation. You don't feel obligated to maintain relationships that drain you. You become comfortable in your own space, your own mind, your own heart. That doesn't mean I completely shut people out. Instead, I started being intentional about who I allowed into my life. I realized that not everyone is meant to stay forever, and that's okay. Some people are meant to be passing chapters, while others become lifelong connections. The key is knowing the difference and accepting it without fear or sadness. Solitude became my sanctuary, a place where I could reflect, heal, and reconnect with myself. And the best part? I stopped feeling lonely. Because loneliness isn't about being alone, it's about feeling disconnected. And when you're truly at peace with yourself, you are never truly alone. As I embraced solitude, I began to see something even more clearly. It's not about having a lot of friends. It's about having the right ones. In my younger years, I thought friendship was about numbers. The more people I knew, the more successful I felt. But as time passed, I realized that only a few people truly mattered, the ones who stood by me through every season of life. For many, family becomes the cornerstone of emotional support in old age. The laughter of children, the warmth of a deep conversation with a spouse, or the gentle teasing of grandchildren, these moments provide a kind of fulfillment that casual friendships never could. But deep friendships can also come from unexpected places. I've learned that having just one or two true friends is enough. It's not about who shows up when things are easy, it's about who remains when life gets hard. A real friend isn't someone who simply remembers your birthday. They're the ones who check in on you when they feel you need it, even when you haven't said a word. I used to believe that I had to maintain every friendship I ever made. But now I see that it's natural for some relationships to fade. People change, priorities shift, and sometimes letting go of friendships that no longer serve us is part of growth. Instead of clinging to the past, I chose to focus on the relationships that still bring value to my life. Quality over quantity. That's the truth about friendship in old age. It's not about surrounding yourself with people, it's about knowing that the few people in your life truly matter. As I focused on quality over quantity in my relationships, I also discovered something unexpected: the power of small, everyday interactions. Friendship doesn't always have to be about deep, lifelong bonds. Sometimes it's the simple smile from a neighbor, the kind greeting from a barista, or the casual chat with someone at the park that brings warmth to our days. These small moments remind us that we are not isolated, that we are part of something bigger, a community. In old age, maintaining a large social circle can feel overwhelming. The energy we once had for social gatherings fades, and that's okay. I've learned to appreciate short, meaningful exchanges just as much as long, deep conversations. A thoughtful phone call, a handwritten letter, or even a short message from an old friend can be just as fulfilling as a night out with a group of people. I used to believe that belonging meant being constantly surrounded by people, but now I understand that it's about feeling valued, seen, and heard, even in small ways. Whether it's the friendly wave from a neighbor or a shared laugh with a stranger, these moments remind us that human connection is everywhere. And the best part? It's effortless. No pressure, no obligations, just natural, simple, everyday interactions that bring a sense of comfort and belonging. You don't need a big social life to feel connected. You just need to be open to the small moments of kindness that surround you every day. One of the most liberating lessons I've learned in old age is this: you don't have to hold on to everything and everyone. For so many years, I believed that maintaining friendships was a responsibility, that if a friendship faded, it was somehow a failure. But the truth is, not every relationship is meant to last forever. People change, life moves forward, and sometimes letting go is necessary for growth. There's a certain peace that comes with releasing relationships that no longer serve you. No more forced conversations. No more pretending to be someone you're not, just to keep the connection alive. Instead of holding on out of obligation, I chose to invest my energy in relationships that truly mattered. At first it felt uncomfortable. I had spent so much of my life trying to be liked, trying to maintain connections, trying to fit into social circles that no longer felt right. But once I let go, I felt lighter, free from expectations, free from unnecessary obligations, free to just be myself. Society teaches us that having fewer friends as we age is a bad thing. But I've come to see it differently. It's not a loss, it's refinement. What remains are the relationships that are truly meaningful, the ones that bring peace, not pressure. So, if you find yourself holding on to friendships that no longer bring you joy, ask yourself why. Are you keeping them because they add value to your life? Or because you're afraid of what it means to let go? True friendship should feel effortless, not like a burden. By releasing what no longer serves you, you create space for what truly does. As we grow older, we inevitably experience loss of friends, loss of loved ones, and even loss of the life we once knew. It's one of the hardest realities of aging, but it's also one that teaches us the most about resilience, love, and the true meaning of connection. There was a time when I feared loss deeply. Every passing of a friend felt like a piece of my own history disappearing. The loneliness that followed was painful, and I struggled to fill the empty spaces left behind. But over time, I realized something. Loss doesn't mean the end of love, it means appreciating the love that was shared. Instead of mourning what is gone, I started cherishing what remains. I held on to the memories, the laughter, the lessons. I stopped seeing loss as a reason to close my heart, and instead used it as a reminder to treasure the people who are still here. One of the most important things I've learned is that grief and joy can exist together. Just because we've lost people doesn't mean we have to live in sadness. We honor them by continuing to live by embracing the moments we still have, by finding peace in solitude, and by carrying forward the love they gave us. Aging comes with change, and change can be difficult, but it also brings wisdom, deeper appreciation, and a new way of looking at the world. It's not about forgetting, it's about finding a way to keep moving forward with love and gratitude in our hearts. So if you've experienced loss, know this: you are not alone. And the best way to honor those who are no longer with us is to continue living fully and joyfully. Society teaches us that having fewer friends as we age is a bad thing, but I've come to see it differently. It's not a loss, it's refinement. What remains are the relationships that are truly meaningful, not pressure. So, if you find yourself holding on to friendships that no longer bring you joy, ask yourself why. Are you keeping them because they add value to your life, or because you're afraid of what it means to let go? True friendship should feel effortless, not like a burden. By releasing what no longer serves you, you create space for what truly does. One of the greatest gifts that comes with age is wisdom, not the kind you read in books, but the kind you earn through experience. Every challenge, every mistake, every moment of joy and sorrow has shaped who we are today. And with that comes a responsibility to share what we've learned. I used to think that legacy was about what we leave behind in material things, money, property, achievements. But as I've grown older, I've realized that a true legacy is the wisdom we pass on, the lessons we share, the love we give, and the way we impact those around us. That is what truly remains. For me, this realization changed the way I viewed my relationships. Instead of chasing friendships, I started focusing on meaningful conversations with my children, my grandchildren, even strangers who crossed my path. Every interaction became an opportunity to pass on something valuable. And it's not just about teaching, it's about listening too. The world is always changing, and younger generations have their own perspectives to offer. Wisdom isn't just about speaking, it's about understanding, growing, and continuing to learn. If there's one thing I hope to leave behind, it's this: life isn't about how many people know your name, but about the impact you have on the people who do. Whether it's through kindness, lessons, or love, we all have something meaningful to give. So ask yourself, what wisdom have you gained from your journey? What would you want to pass on? Because in the end, our stories, our experiences, and our insights become the most valuable gifts we leave behind. As I've grown older, I've come to realize something profound: the greatest relationship you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. For so long, I sought validation from others. I thought my worth was tied to the number of friends I had, the invitations I received, the conversations I engaged in. But as I embraced solitude, I discovered a deeper truth. You don't need others to complete you, you are already whole. Self-love isn't just about treating yourself kindly. It's about truly appreciating who you are, flaws and all. It's about recognizing that you don't need to prove anything to anyone. You don't need a packed social calendar to feel important. You don't need constant approval to know that you matter. Many people fear being alone because they mistake it for loneliness. But I found that being comfortable in your own company is one of the most powerful things you can experience. When you love yourself, you no longer fear solitude, you embrace it. At the same time, I also learned to redefine what connection truly means. It's not about frequent sights, about depth. A single heartfelt conversation can mean more than 100 shallow interactions. A quiet, understanding moment with someone can carry more weight than hours of mindless chatter. Connection isn't about numbers, it's about meaning. Whether it's with family, old friends, or even a stranger, the relationships that truly nourish us are the ones built on genuine understanding, mutual respect, and authenticity. The moment you stop seeking validation from others and start embracing your own worth, your entire perspective on friendship changes. You stop craving external approval and instead You focus on what truly brings you joy and fulfillment. And that's where true peace begins. As I reflect on this journey, I realize that aging is not a time of loss, it's a time of liberation. It's a chance to redefine what truly matters, to let go of societal pressures, and to embrace life on our own terms. We don't need a large social circle to feel fulfilled. We need meaningful connections, both with ourselves and with those who truly matter. We need to appreciate solitude, cherish the small interactions, and understand that our worth isn't determined by how many people surround us, but by the richness of our experiences. So I ask you, what has your journey taught you about friendship, solitude, and self-worth? How have your relationships evolved as you've grown older? What wisdom would you pass on to others who may be struggling with the idea of being alone? I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. Let's open up this conversation and support one another in redefining what it means to live joyfully alone. Remember, living alone is not the same as being lonely. When you embrace who you are, find peace in solitude, and nurture the relationships that truly matter, you create a life filled with meaning, purpose, and deep connection. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this message resonated with you, consider sharing it with someone who might need to hear it. Together, let's challenge outdated ideas about aging and friendship and celebrate the beauty of living joyfully alone.